Okay. Hi, I'm Dee. I love accessories. My first love is making lace, but very close on the heels of that are all of those little things that go with the stuff that we wear to make it um, just over the top. And so one of the things that I enjoy working with are the Zibellinis. And I thought that I would go over just some basic information about them with you and then show you how we make some of ours and show you some of the ones that we have. And if anyone has any questions, they're a lot easier to make than you might think. And one of the things that we are working on right now is actually a pattern that we're going to make one out of fur. So if people don't like to work with real animal fur, you can make one. And I'll show you a picture that kind of gave us that idea in a minute. So let me go ahead and I'll put my PowerPoint up and then I can go from there. So, okay. So this is my lovely daughter. Just and this is one of our Zibellinis. Uh, and so, so the main source that I use with this is an article called Fleas, Furs, and Fashion, Zibellini as Luxury Accessories in the Renaissance. This is from the Medieval Clothing and Textiles Journal. It was actually presented at Kalamazoo in 2004, which I know is a long time, much longer than you're supposed to hold on to things. But um, this is a really good article, and I just don't find much about the Zibs. I don't find much where people have really put a lot of academic work into them or more professional work other than just, you know, pulling pictures off of Pinterest, which is what I do. So anyway, this is a really, really nice article. And you can get it through your library. I'm not sure if there are other sources. I got my library to order it for me. And not only does it have information about Zibs and some pictures, but what's really incredible about it is at the end, it has about 6 pages of mention of Zibellini in wardrobe inventories, sales, someone who ordered one, someone who asked somebody to order them one for them, somebody who, you know, a description from jewelers about the parts that they made, and all of that. So, and then at the end, it has a nice about 2 pages of sources. Most of them seem to be just links back to inventories or printed inventories. But like I said, it gives you a good history, and it's a nice study. And I just have not found a whole lot other than that. Now, I haven't looked recently, so it's been a couple of years, but this is really good. If you want an article, this would be a good one to have. So just a couple of things about them. These were a luxury item. We still are not sure, other than decoration, if they had any other focus or any other purpose. Some people think that they had to do with childbirth and protection in childbirth because of the marten fur. They were usually made out of marten or sable, and you'll find them worn over the shoulder. You'll find them worn around the neck, over the arm, carried in the hand, just any number of ways that people would wear them and hold on to them. You'll see them with natural or jeweled heads, natural heads where they just put some kind of a yoke or a chain or a chain in the mouth, or they are the whole metal head or sometimes glass, jet, crystal heads. So they are often attached either directly to the girdle by the mouth, or they have a harness that attaches it to the girdle. And again, the whole thing, everybody I'm sure knows by now that they had nothing to do with fleas, right? Nobody thinks that they were really there for fleas to jump on. What I heard was what really good flea is going to leave a nice warm body with a beating heart to go to a dead piece of fur. So as far as we know, that was just something that came up in the Victorian era. So other than that, there is some connection apparently to childbirth. They really don't know a specific purpose other than they're pretty, and they feel nice. So let's see. Okay, this is just a little bit of the history of the first time they were found. And this again comes from this article from Cheryl. And so she says the origins of the style were placed in northern Italy. And as far as a written account, 1490, Isabella d'Este wrote to Giorgio Brognolo, and I'm probably butchering the names, I apologize, who was her agent in Venice, and this is what she asked for. So it gives you an idea of how they were starting into this accessory and how they were starting into using these. And she wanted wanted him to buy 80 pelts and see if you can find one that you can hold in the hand that still has a bone in it, that has a skull. So even if it should cost a lot, they don't mind the cost as long as it's beautiful. A little bit before that, in 1467, in an inventory of Charles the Bold, it says a marten for putting around the neck, the head and feet of gold, with ruby eyes, with diamonds on the muzzle and paws. So that's much earlier than that, but there is no illustration following that. There's just that one written source. And then the next one comes in 1489, where there is a picture of Isabella d'Aragon who is carrying an ungarnished sable. So those are just some of the earliest ones. And so then I wanted to show some of the pictures and sculpture and that sort of thing. And so this is from approximately 1497, a tomb effigy of Beatrice d'Este, I'm sorry. So she has one draped over her arm. And so I have two pictures there of it. This one you can see the whole thing, and this one you can just see the top part of it. And that is like the dress that is just incredible. But that's the first one that in an artistic representation. Again, since this was printed, there may be earlier ones, but this is, if it's not the first, it's very early. And it's kind of interesting that they would choose to put that on her tomb with her. So, and it's just beautiful sculpture. So these are just two examples of natural Zibellini. This one, right, the one on the left is, you can see she's holding it in her hand. It doesn't have any kind of a head on it. And then the one on the left, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's over the woman's shoulder on the right-hand side. And she's holding it by the cord, but it doesn't have any sort of a gold head or decoration or jewels or anything like that on it. And so these are kind of spread out, so they show that it lasted for quite a while. And actually, it lasted into the start of the 17th century that people would wear these, and then it kind of faded away. These are the decorated ones. These are the heads. And these are just a little bit closer up to give you an idea. I love the pearl earrings that they're wearing. I always thought those were kind of cool. And this lady is wearing one. I don't know how big these are coming up on your screen if you can see them, but hers is tied to the girdle right here down below her waist, and she's holding it in her hand, the rest of it in her hand there. So this gives you an idea of what some of the gold ones look like. Now they use them, other than the gold ones, they had them in other sorts of metals and materials. They have some that were jet. The one on the left here is from the Walther Museum. What's kind of neat about it is there's a picture of Countess de Porta, and the last name I think is Teen or Tane. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but anyway, she's holding one that looks almost exactly like this one. And then they have this one in the same museum where her portrait is. On the front of this is a dove that is supposed to also be connected to protection in childbirth. So that, just kind of reinforces that whole idea that they may be that it may have something to do with childbirth. The one on the left is one that's made out of crystal. And what's interesting about this one is that when they quit using it as a zib, they apparently repurposed it and used it as a snuff box. So they could put snuff in it, and then it has a little cap on the back now. But this just shows you some of the different materials that they were made out of. And So they even though you don't see, like, I've never seen a crystal head on a portrait. I have seen a jet head. I've seen one made out of jet, but I've never seen a crystal head. And I've never seen a decorated natural head, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute too. So while they have them, this one on the left here seems to be the popular one for portraits, this or purely natural, but they obviously had other sorts that they used. Okay, so I showed you this one on the left-hand side just because it's so big. So it's kind of unusual that, you know, this looks like a really, really huge zib. And then this one on the left, I have two pictures of it because this is the one that got me to thinking that we could probably make them out of, especially again, since some people do have a problem with working with fur, we could probably make them out of fake fur. If you have a good fake fur, and do them. This one looks almost like an eel, like a flat eel. And it, I did both pictures because it's a little easier to see it on the white background. They've lightened it up enough that it's easier to see it. But you can see it's very flat, but it looks like it has these two little floppy legs sewn onto it. And so I think that if that was something that you wanted to do, you could try something like that. And this is a sort of a documentation that it wasn't always the full whole body that that we see in most of the other ones. This sort of thing, when it comes about, just fascinates me when I see something like that. So this is the other one that I wanted to show, and this is a decorated natural head, and this is the actual head. This is not a gold head. So they took this and they actually bought jewelry to decorate it, and this actually is from 1562, the one on the left, and it's two muzzles and one fox paw that a jeweler, this was designed by a jeweler, and in this section where they're talking about this, they have how they could sell just these muzzles. So they would put just the muzzles on them and on a head without all of the gold on it. So this is just another way you could make one. And here's one on the left too, that you can see. This is what the muzzle looks like, and that's the animal with it on it. So let's see. All right, so how to make your own zib. This was from a zib workshop we did for our household down here, and we have people who are very artistic, and we have me. I'm not real artistic. I'm real crafty and I'm real organized, but I am not real artistic, as is obvious from, you can tell which one is mine. That one and that one are mine. I'm sorry, you can't see that, can you? The one on the top left and then the one on the right, those are mine. The others are my husband, who actually is an artist. So these are the Sculpey heads, and I'm gonna stop this and I'm gonna show you how we make one in case it's something that you might want to do. So give me just a second to stop sharing this. Okay. All right. So I have back here some of the zibs that we did. And so this is my ugly one. And we don't take the heads off of them when we do it. Some people do, but we don't do it. I am happy that I finished it, and it's lost an eye. We were going to try and put the eye on, but we've decided we're going to put a pirate patch on it instead. So that's but he's about 7 or 8 years old, so he deserves an eye patch. And then this one is one that my husband did, and he's an artist and can do stuff like that, unlike me. So this is the one that he did, and it's on that. It's the other one that was on the PowerPoint that I was showing you. So this is how he did his. So what we do, if you want to do one, I'm short and I have the hardest time getting up to the camera. So here is one of the little minks, and you can find them in the flea markets. You can find them in Sometimes you can get them on Etsy. Sometimes you can get them on eBay. You can get them in Goodwill. We just, wherever we find them, I just grab them. I've got a whole bunch right now because I just grab them whenever I can see them. But he already has the head. It actually has let me see, I don't know if you can see that. It actually has a clip for the mouth right there. So what we do with them is we take a piece of cling wrap, clear cling wrap, and we cover him with the cling wrap like this and try to pull it as close to the head as we can. Then I need to put that. Then we put a rubber band around it so it will hold that cling wrap. And at that point, I'm not gonna double it, but that you get the idea. So that you want that to hold down the cling wrap. And at that point, we start putting the Sculpey over it. And when we get the Sculpey to a point, when we get the Sculpey to a point where it's thick enough and we can still work with it, we'll pull out the zib and put it aside. And then we will take the head, because it's still wet, and we'll take aluminum foil and we will stuff the head with the aluminum foil so that it will keep its shape. And then we can continue to work on it while we're the eyes and making everything else. And then continue on with them. And then we take out, we put them in the oven and cook them according to what the directions are for the Sculpey. And then you can put jewels on it. You can glue on jewels. You can glue on pearls, seeds, seed beads. You can make loops on them, just whatever you're interested in doing. On the back, I don't know if you can see this, but on the back, we put little holes in it before we bake it so that you can sew it onto the zib. And if you're a talented artist, yours will look like this. And if you're not, it will look like mine. So, but it's really pretty straightforward. Are there any questions about that?
This is Gianetta. I have a question.
Okay.
Do you do anything for the paws?
Yes, but mostly I don't do anything that is I don't do anything that's a full Sculpey. I'll show you in just a minute what I do for the decorated natural ones, and we use that sort of thing on the paws even when we do the gold. Okay, because you can just sew on those sorts of decorations if you want to. So, okay. Okay, so back to my PowerPoint. Maybe. Okay, so these are some decorated natural heads, just to show you some of the things that we've done, and I'll show you the actual zibs in just a minute. This is actually, the one on the right is actually a pearl in a Sculpey base, so you can kind of combine things and do that. This would be something that you could sew onto the feet if you wanted to, or you could just use one of these pieces that you, like you see on the other two on the head, that you can find at Michael's or Hoblob or something like that. So I think, okay, let me stop sharing and then I'll show you the others. Okay, so this is the one that we did, that we decorated a natural head. So it doesn't have all of that, it doesn't have all of the gold and Sculpey and all of that on it. It's just a natural head. And what we did was we actually put this into we put the thing for the clasp into the mouth, and it stays. So you didn't have to do any other sewing or anything for that. And again, this is stuff that you all, well, I'm sorry about that. Stuff that you all can get at Hoblob or anywhere. And the fun thing about this is you can just do whatever you think is fun with it. You can just be as creative as you want to. So that's one of them. And then that's another one. And so these are the sorts of things that you could take and you could put on the paws if you wanted to. Just find little findings or little decorative pieces and put them on the paws. So really that's all I have to say about it. And I'm sorry, that's probably supposed to be longer than that. But just, do people have any questions?
When we do have a question in the chat box from Kitty Lewis.
Okay, hang on. Okay, let's see if I can get this to go then. Okay. I can't see the question when I've got this up. Or
To you, so if you want to scroll to where the pictures are, I'm going to try to actually unmute Katie.
okay.
She says.
I just wanted to know about how many holes should you be putting in your, if you make the Sculpey head, about how many holes should you put in the Zibellini? And also, will you be making the PowerPoint available?
I can make the PowerPoint available if people would like it, yeah. As far as holes, we put in a lot, like maybe every quarter inch, because the thing with the Sculpey is you have a good chance that it might break because you're doing it towards the end. So as long as you can get about 4 good holes across the back, you're good with it, and about the same underneath. Which picture, Gianna?
The photo, it was a lady holding a natural one. No, maybe it wasn't. No, it was after that. Maybe
Okay.
it was on the same screen with the lady with the Zamara. Not this Zamara, but the one a bit ahead. Yes.
This one? Okay.
This one on the very left. Do you have an attribution for that one?
It's 1535, and that's all I wrote down, but I can find it.
Okay.
Before I let this go, I would put in names and everything, but but this one was 1535.
Because I'm actually making a very similar dress. So I'm thinking to have a matching Zibellino, just try to recreate maybe this portrait. So if you do come across, if you have the attribution somewhere and you can find it, I would love to get it.
I absolutely will. Like I said, it's in my Pinterest board. And I think that all of the information is in there. I have a Pinterest board on Zibs, and I think it's all in.
For that from you.
What?
I'll just get the link for your Pinterest board, and then I can peruse through it and find it.
Okay. Yeah, it's at the end of the PowerPoint. So, any other questions?
How were Zibellinos tied to social status? Do you know?
I would think that just because it costs a lot, they were really expensive, and so you had to have a lot of money to have them. I don't know of them. I don't know of anything where it says you have to have a certain rank to own one. But I haven't read the sumptuary laws about them. I will say that in that article that I have, they do have a lot of sumptuary laws that mention them. And let me show you one more, John, especially if you're interested in this big one. Can you see that, or do you just only see my PowerPoint?
I can see you. Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. So you see how big this is?
Yes, that's huge.
That would be along the lines of this one that the lady has in that picture you're talking about.
Okay.
So, and this one's a metal head. Metal copper. I didn't make this one, but it's I like small things. But it's a big metal copper head. Wow. Anything else I can help you with? Suggestions?
How would, if so I have a fur that I got at Burka, it doesn't have a clip or anything. How would you suggest like putting some kind of like piece in the mouth to hold it if it didn't have the clip?
Okay, so if you had one and it didn't have the clip, you would just want to sew it in underneath the nose in the back, up under here, and you'd want to sew it. Does it have enough of a covering that you can put a needle through it?
I'd have to go check.
Okay, and if it doesn't have it right under the mouth, you can put it further back in here. If you have to go a little further back, just so long as it comes out, and you can tack it. You know, if you have to do it back here so that it's strong enough to hold the chain, you can just tack it through here. But usually there's enough of a fur or the covering that you can put a needle through it a couple of times. I think all of mine have mouths on them. Oh no, here's one. Doesn't have a mouth.
So I was just wondering, you touched a little bit on some possible meanings of the flea fur. Have you run into, in addition to protection in childbirth, have you run into other symbolism like fertility, fecundity, that kind of thing?
Just protection when you're pregnant. Not anything about making it easier for you to get pregnant. But Martin was supposed to be a protection, and then again, like I said, the Walter Museum talks about the dove on the snout of the one they have, and the Countess Porta picture. Some people say that she was pregnant at the time that picture was done, and so that would make it. They're not saying it's the same one, but it's from the same time, and it looks awful close. But so that's where that comes from. And what I keep finding is nobody knows exactly what they are. No one knows what they were for. But they can be pretty sure they weren't for fleas. So this one doesn't have for whoever was asking, this one doesn't have a clip on the back, but you can see there's just enough right back here. I'm sorry, right here where you could sew something in. There's it's not right here on the jaw, but right behind the jaw. That's where I would sew that in.
Can you show us the clip again on the white one?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I'll show you that, and then I'll show you this one again, the white one. Okay. Let's see. So that's the front, and then there's
So
the clip.
Okay, got ya.
Okay. There's the clip. Oh. And this one right here, it's been so long since we made these. Yeah, but this one right here, also it doesn't have a clip, and so this piece was just sewn right there into the mouth, and then we put his little harness around him, right around the mouth like that. But this part right here is just sewn right onto that tip. Give us the chain.
Okay, so there is okay, bye Katie. Martha has a question. Can you review wearing? So when you do wear them, I actually got one secondhand. It really shed a lot on me. So can you talk about when you wear them, how you attach them to yourself, how you keep them from maybe getting roughed up when you're moving around or when you're hugging people, etc.?
Okay, so I don't wear them very often to outside events. I live in Middle Georgia, and I do as little as possible with anything with fur on it, except for like the 2 weeks of the year where it's cold. But when I wear them on the shoulder, I often don't even bring it all the way down to a girdle because I don't necessarily usually wear one. So I'll just put a pin and I'll pin it up here. I'll pin it up on my shoulder so that it doesn't go anywhere. And to me, that's the most comfortable way to do it. I just have too much going on to walk around holding something in my hand. When I do my fans, I stick them in a pouch or a belt or something. So what I try to do with this so that I don't have to touch it, I mean, hold on to it, is I'll pin it underneath here. If you can see that, I just pin it right there onto whatever garb I'm wearing. They usually aren't long enough. You'll see some that are done around the neck like this. They usually aren't long enough for me to wear them like that. And again, they're too hot. So just put them and pin them. When you do them up here too, Giada, or I couldn't remember who was asking, but when you do it like that, then it really gets out of the way of anyone hugging you this way, unless, you know, you don't have as much of people pushing on them or shoving on them as you would if you had them hanging here on your belt in front of you. You know? Now, I've never had a problem with one shedding. So I'm not sure. I'll look up and see what you might be able to do about that. But I've never had that issue. So you price-wise, I get them for everywhere from $10 to $15. Just
Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have one that's rolled around the family. I have no idea where it came from, but it's been rolling around the family. I mean, my mother died. We found it in her stuff. I know my mother did not buy this. I don't know who it came from, but it's got to be from like the 1930s.
Oh my gosh.
And no, the sucker does not shed. And I wanted to do something like this with it. It's exactly why I was like desperate to take your class, because I'll build anything around it just so I can use this, even if it's only once and it falls apart. I don't care, because literally my mother died 40 years ago when we found it in her stuff.
Oh my gosh.
But it's got the clip.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if somebody gave it to her, or I can't believe that any of my Puerto Rican relatives had this and passed it on to her. That just does not compute. But it is not shedding, and that clamp is
tough. It'll hold anything.
Hold anything.
Yeah, it will. They will hold anything. And I'll tell you, like I said, we don't like to cut the heads off, because we like to keep it on there, and that way if you want to take it off, if you want to change it, if you decide that you want to go back to the 40s and start wearing them, you can. But I just don't like the idea. I don't know why I don't like the idea. Some people do, they cut the head off, but in the pattern that we're drafting, that we're working on for one out of fur that's not real fur, out of faux fur, we put a cork in the center where a neck might be, so that you have something to tie into if you put a head on it. But I would suggest keeping it like this. Put the cellophane wrap over it, because that way when you slide it out, it'll come out and it hasn't gunked up anything on your head. And then you've got one that fits that one perfectly.
Perfect. Hey, Giada, I just wanted to say that I have a couple furs that are vintage, not necessarily Zibellini furs, but just furs in general. And only the one that I have that's sort of dried out and nearing the end of its life is the only one that sheds. And when I had taken this in to get it cleaned by the dry cleaners, even their fur person was like, well, it's getting old. It's, you know, see how much it's shedding. If it gets ruined, you know, don't blame us, basically. So I just wanted to let you know that it might be that particular fur is reaching its end of life.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that might be an indication. I got it secondhand, and I've used it maybe 8 or 9 times, which is a lot for someone who lives in New Orleans. So I'm happy with the use I've gotten. You said you'd get yours for about $10 to $15?
10 to 15, yeah.
Gotcha.
I just bought 6 for $10 a piece. This one right here, and this is, you know, in case no one's seen what they might look like. If you see a pile at a flea market or something, you want to lift them up and see what it is, because I got this one for 36, and there are 3 of them on here, and they're real pretty ones. I mean, they've all got the arms and legs, and they have real pretty fur. But they were just, you know, they would just clip them on like that and wear them. So you might see something and they don't know what they have. They might call it a stole. It might just look like a bag of fur, but pick them up. You never know what you'll find.
Where can you get the clamps? That's another question from Isabella Orsini.
The clamps under the jaw.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Those are on them when you get them, unless they've been removed or they were sewn on for some reason. I don't know anywhere to get them. They come. They just come that because that's how they hook them onto the other ones. They hook them to each other. So it kind of depends on what they use them for. You might be able to buy clamps, but I've never had to do it, so I don't know. I'm sorry.
The one that I got secondhand, it has an alligator clip like attached under its jaw, so that I could clip it onto my hood. That's how I wore it, kind of like hanging from my hood. And so if you want to attach it to your person, you can affix an alligator clamp underneath its neck here. And then its actual mouth won't clamp, but you'll be able to put it onto your person.
You clamp it on. Okay, good.
The dry cleaners have some of them have like a furrier method, so that before you put furs in cold storage for the summer, you get them conditioned. Would they do something so tiny?
Oh, I don't know. That would be interesting to find out. I've never run across that problem, so but that'll be something to add to my questions to figure out before I do this again.